Last night, conservative news network Newsmax aired a half-hour interview with former President Trump. But the most interesting part actually came at the very end. When the former president was off screen, Newsmax host Eric Bolling, who conducted the interview, directly addressed the audience and presented a very unusual disclaimer.
All right, folks, now just a note, Newsmax has accepted the election results as legal and final.
A bizarre note there, and one that Newsmax evidently felt was necessary because of comments like this that the former president made during the interview.
And this is about a perfect phone call, a call where I'm questioning the election. I'm telling them that, in my opinion, the election was rigged. And they're saying that I did something incorrect. I didn't do anything wrong. I believe I won that election by many, many votes, many, many hundreds of thousands of votes. That's what I think.
Notice the former president couching his statements as opinion there, I think, something he doesn't ordinarily do. But Newsmax evidently thought Trump's statements went far enough to necessitate a disclaimer. Why? Will that one line really help them? You see, Newsmax is currently being sued by voting machine companies Dominion and Smartmatic for defamation relating to false statements that were made on their air about the 2020 election. These lawsuits are currently making their way through the Superior Court of Delaware, the very same court where earlier this year, Fox News settled a defamation suit with Dominion to the tune of $787.5 million. Now, undoubtedly, that put Newsmax and another network called OAN on notice that they could be next. And without the mega billions of the Fox Corporation behind them, these lawsuits could pose an existential threat to something like Newsmax. It's clear they fear the ramifications of a potentially huge judgment against them. But will that brief, belated disclaimer actually do them any good? Let's ask Larissa Lidsky. She's a professor at the University of Florida, Levin College of Law, where she teaches about media, defamation, and the First Amendment. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. So what do you think? Can that disclaimer actually protect them?
Thank you for having me. Well, not much. It's too little too late. In order to provide some protection against full damages, they would have needed to do a retraction that was full and complete and conspicuous and relatively timely. But nonetheless, it might be helpful if they're trying to work out a settlement along the lines of the Fox settlement, because at least it shows some contrition. They're not doubling down on the election-related lies. And so it can be part of a legal strategy to try to minimize the damage now, even if it doesn't go as far as a full retraction.
You know, I think a lot of people forget that Fox actually tried to back off some of the claims that they had made, like Lou Dobbs even, debunking his own commentary about Smartmatic in 2020. Let's listen.
Lots of opinions about the integrity of the election, the irregularities of mail-in voting, of election voting machines and voting software. One of the companies is Smartmatic, and we reached out to one of the leading authorities on open source software for elections.
I have not seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to delete, change, alter anything related to vote tabulation.
Professor Lidsky, that didn't help them a whole lot.
It did not, although, we don't know what might have happened had they gone in front of a jury. So, I really think that language that they used in their disclaimer in Newsmax, they used before in press releases. After the judge in Delaware didn't dismiss their suit, they used exactly that same strange formulation that it's legal and final. So it's clearly something they've thought about, that language in ceasing to be election deniers.
I mean, do you think that they were going to say that no matter what, or do you think there was some decision made that depending on what he says, we may have to issue this disclaimer?
That's a good question. I do think that they were going to wait and see what Trump said, because they're walking a fine line here. They're gaining audience, relative to their competitors. After Tucker Carlson left Fox, They've gained more audience. Sometimes they're ahead of CNN. And so they don't want to tell their audience things it doesn't want to hear. And some of their conservative audience members want to believe the election was stolen still. So I think it was probably triggered by what Trump specifically said.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.